Welcome to a brief training on signing up to access the New York State Workers' Compensation Board's medical portal. So what is the medical portal? The medical portal is a web-based application that will enable users to submit medical information and view other Workers' Compensation Board information electronically. Through the medical portal, users will be able to apply to become board-authorized providers, renew Workers' Compensation Board registration, and access the drug formulary, medical treatment guidelines, and other resources. It's important to also note that users will eventually be able to request and approve prior authorization for non-formulary drugs, access a medical treatment guidelines lookup tool and the variance process, and submit and/or review variance and C4 auth requests. The medical portal will be available to multiple parties, including medical providers, payers, which include insurance carriers and third-party administrators or TPAs, self-insured employers, and pharmacy benefit managers or PBMs. Functions available within the portal will be specific to an individual's role. So what are some benefits of the medical portal? This web-based process is intended to create efficient processes by moving from paper-based to electronic submission, provide electronic submission and tracking of authorization requests, such as medical treatment and formulary prior authorizations, and enable users to track the status of their requests. An NY.GOV ID is required for accessing the medical portal. This is separate and apart from an NY.GOV ID that users may have for another New York State agency, for example, Department of Motor Vehicles, Civil Service, etc. So how would a new provider obtain an NY.GOV ID? An NY.GOV ID and temporary password will be generated for new providers as part of the registration process for the medical portal. Providers will be prompted to provide their DOH Health Commerce System HCS user ID if they are registered with the Department of Health. If you have a Health Commerce System HSC ID and provide it, the board will assign an NY.GOV ID consistent with your HCS username. A temporary password will also be assigned. It is recommended the permanent password you set is consistent with your HCS password. If you do not have or provide an HSC ID, a match cannot be made to the HCS ID, or the ID is not available in NY.GOV, the board will assign you a user ID. Let's look at the process for new providers to sign up and access the medical portal. Step 1. Click the link to sign up for the medical portal. This link will be available on the board's website. Step 2. Identify your provider type. Note that nurse practitioners must sign up as registered nurses. Step 3. Provide basic information such as your name, license, and NPI number, as well as your HCS ID if you have one. Step 4. Submit the request for access to the medical portal to the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. Step 5. Once received, the board will process your request and provide you with NY.GOV ID user credentials. Step 6. Use the NY.GOV ID user credentials to access the medical portal. Once credentials are received, a user is assigned a temporary password to log in the first time. Upon logging in the first time, the user will be prompted to set a permanent password. They will also be prompted by NY.GOV to set up shared secrets that can be used later to reset your password if you forget it. Now let's discuss how other medical providers can obtain an NY.GOV ID to access the medical portal. If a provider is already registered with the board through the Health Commerce System, no action is required. The board will use their existing information to create their NY.GOV ID user credentials. The user will receive a notification from the board with their NY.GOV ID user credentials. The user will be assigned a temporary password to log in the first time. Upon logging in the first time, the user will then be prompted to set a permanent password. If a medical provider already has an NY.GOV ID because they submit forms to the board electronically, no action is required. The board will grant you access to the medical portal using your existing NY.GOV ID user credentials. Thank you for viewing this training on signing up to access the New York State Workers' Compensation Board's medical portal and obtaining an NY.GOV user ID. For more information, please visit the board's website at wcb.ny.gov. You can also subscribe to receive Workers' Compensation Board updates at wcb.ny.gov/notify.